Hi, it's Atma. A lot of people ask me what they'll get from a face reading with me. So I'm going to show you in this video how a typical face reading session with me will work, and I'm going to do this with Taruni. An individual session usually takes about an hour to 90 minutes. Before I begin, I usually ask a few questions so that I can have a context for your face reading. For example, are you looking for career advice, relationship assessment? Maybe you want to know more about your propensities, strengths, and weaknesses. Taruni has asked me to help her identify why she feels stuck in her life. She's been feeling like this for a few years now, and it's interfering with her motivation and enthusiasm when it comes to career and relationships. Now, this is a great question, and we're going to look at several areas of your life, including your family environment, your relationship with your parents, and your strengths and weaknesses that have arisen from all these issues. Then we're going to piece all that together and create what we hope is a meaningful recommendation. Sound good? Mm-hmm. All right, so let's get started.
Before we begin Taruni's face reading, take a moment to look at Taruni's photograph and just allow an impression of her face to emerge from your intuitive mind. Without words, notice how you feel about her in this moment. And then we'll check in with you at the end of the reading and see how the reading may have changed your initial impression. I'm going to compartmentalize Taruni's face into 9 channels. Each channel will give you different information about who she is, how she interacts with her environment, how she experiences life, and how she feels about herself.
The first place that we're going to look is the lower right quadrant.
Now, as we look at your right mouth, Taruni, the information in this part of your face will tell us how you get what you want, or to put it another way, how you deal with the world. When we first look to the lower right mouth to determine the individual's environmental impact system, this means that we can infer the kind of environment they grew up in because we see the physical traces of the way they dealt with and responded to that environment in this part of the face. The emotional environment of a child's formative years has the greatest impact on an individual's development and ability to function in adult life. Now, because most of us grew up in a less than ideal family environment, we develop coping mechanisms which are called scripts. And when there is a severe lack of the appropriate parental support and nurturing, we can experience what are called developmental arrests. Scripts are patterns of behavior which are developed by the child to create the stability that is lacking within their emotional environment. Scripts become habitual response patterns that the child develops to cope with the lack of appropriate emotional support or love. Inappropriate expectations and boundaries, parental neurosis, and a host of other inappropriate emotional expectations that the child experiences. Now, developmental arrests are more severe, and they are the consequence of dysfunction in the family environment in the first 3 years of life. Scripts and developmental arrests, if not healed in adult life, will impair an individual's experience of life and their ability to function in relationships in society. When I analyze a person's face, I am deducing and inferring their psychological profile. And a large part of this process requires me to recognize the severity of any existing scripts and developmental arrests and assess their impact on the individual's ability to function based on their capacity and potential to heal these. Healing depends on the individual's maturity, their depth, and the amount of internal resources they possess. In this way, I can predict how someone will function in their personal relationships, work environments, and how effective they are as contributing members of society. So let's get on with Taruni's face reading. Now, the first thing I notice here in your right mouth, Taruni, are emblems of repression. as well as a very even-handed control of your emotional self. Now, if anyone is wondering how I can see everything I'm about to describe in Taruni's face, it simply takes practice and training. Just as an X-ray to the untrained eye produces very little meaningful information, to a doctor or a trained medical professional, volumes of information is revealed. So let's continue our deduction process, or to be technical, our inference process. Taruni, your right mouth gives us a clue as to your emotional well-being. The repression I have already mentioned is repressed anger due to growing up in a very challenging family environment, which caused you to question your sense of belonging, to question whether you deserve to be loved or even to exist. You were also left to question whether you would ever be good enough to receive your parents' love, all of which are questions that a child really shouldn't have to face. I can also see that the parental care was highly codependent, a type of puppet mastery codependency coupled with a pattern of joy disruption. Joy disruption refers to family systems that don't allow the child to experience any joyful emotions. Now, if that's not heavy enough, I also see one last family issue, which I call success addiction, which means that a disproportionate emphasis has been placed on material success by your family, which now drives you in a compulsive way. And the first script that you developed to cope with your childhood environment is a script called the model child. The script came from your virulent, authoritarian parents who placed a tremendous amount of pressure on you and had very high expectations. You developed the characteristics of this script to maintain some kind of emotional equilibrium. This model child script is a crutch-based pain avoidance script and is one of the biggest and more difficult of the 31 scripts to overcome. I covered the 31 scripts in my Become a Face Reader workshop, and you can find out how to sign up for one of these workshops here at this address. You also have a second script called One and Only Heir. This script comes from the codependent group of scripts which occurs when there is a total capitulation to parental expectations and demands. So, with the information that I've gathered, I can answer the question, how does Taruni get what she wants from the world? She gets what she wants by meeting everyone else's needs and desires. She gives you everything that you want, and in that way, she feels as though she is getting her emotional needs met. But of course, this is devaluing you, Taruni, as a person and overvaluing you as a producer of outcomes.
The next place we're going to look for information is in the lower left quadrant.
When we look at the left mouth, we can frame the information with this question: what do I expect from the world? While the right mouth gives us information that is outwardly facing, the left mouth is internally facing. This lower left quadrant of the face tells us how the individual expects to be treated by the world. This pattern of the right side of the face looking out and the left side of the face looking in will be repeated with each of the remaining channels of the face. Now, here I can see the consequences of that family environment that we discovered when looking at your right side. The massive capitulation to your parents' expectations resulted in a fair amount of repressed anger. But because that capitulation was combined with a further degree of alienation in your early years, we also have a developmental arrest. In your case, Taruni, you have a developmental arrest that I call RFE, which stands for responsible for everything. This arrest causes you to take on the full burden of responsibility in every situation you are because you weren't able to develop a deep sense of trust in your parental units. And I would say that this occurred in the first 2 years of your life. So, what does Taruni expect from the world as we summarize her left mouth? She expects that she will be evaluated only by her accomplishments and not valued for who she is as a person. As a result, she also tends to value other people in the same way, valuing people for their output and not their humanity.
Now we're going to look at the whole mouth. This is what I call the resume shot.
Now, the reason I call the whole mouth the resume shot is because with the whole mouth, we are seeing the reactions that other people have towards us. The emotional reactions that occur between you and other people is reflected in the lower half of your face. It's apparent right away when I look at Taruni's whole mouth that she is a very high-level individual. Taruni is functioning at a very high capacity, and consequently, people tend to look at her with a great deal of respect. Their emotional reaction to her is positive, and they feel that she is a very together and poised person. Interestingly enough, however, we can also see that while people are instantly attracted to you, Taruni, they are simultaneously intimidated by you because you have a very strong presence. Intuitively, people understand that depending on the nature of their involvement with you, you will be very demanding of them. But overall, the high level of esteem to which people almost instantaneously hold you is very impressive. In the consulting work that I perform for my corporate clients, I'm often asked to evaluate potential hirees. If I were asked about Taruni, my assessment would be, depending on the job of course, that she'd be an excellent candidate because she is focused, poised, deliberate, and committed to any job that she takes on and can be counted on to finish what she starts.
So now let's go to the upper part of the face. Again, we're going to work from right to left.
The right eye gives us insight into how Taruni sees the world. This represents her world view, so to speak, her expectations of the world and how she experiences life and the world around her. Here we see a reinforcement of the high degree of expectation of herself that we discovered in her right mouth. Being so very demanding of herself also makes her demanding of other people. We also see an intensity here because of the RFE, responsible for everything, developmental arrest, which had its roots in both fear and anger, leading Taruni to experience the world as a very heavy burden. She takes on all the stress and responsibility for everything that happens in not only her own life, but in everyone else's life also, which is one of the clear contributing factors to why she feels stuck in her own life. The eyes bring an important element into the face reading process. The eyes reveal the level of resilience or depth of the individual. In Taruni's case, we see a tremendous amount of depth. This is very significant when you read someone's face because the greater the depth, the higher the likelihood that the individual will be able to heal their persistent and unresolved childhood issues. We ascertain depth in face reading through a phenomena called bounce back, and this is how it works. Look into Taruni's eyes and see how far you can travel into her eyes before you get pushed out. You will find that you can go a very long way. Try this out for yourself with any number of pictures. Just look into their eyes and see how far you can travel before you hit the bounce back. So, with this knowledge of Taruni's great depth, I'm very confident that she has the ability to heal from all the issues that she has struggled with, and because I know Taruni very well, I know that she has worked very hard on herself and has in fact mostly healed her model child and her one and only heir scripts. I'll make a final comment about scripts. These childhood coping mechanisms can actually be powerful adult resources when they are healed, and this is evident in Taruni. Not only is she a high-functioning individual, but it is clear that she will be an impressive contributor to humanity and any community to which she belongs.
Now we're going to look at the left eye.
As we look at Taruni's left eye, you'll notice a remarkable difference between her right and left eyes. Let's flip back and forth so you can notice the difference. Here is her right eye, and here is her left. And now back to the right, and back to the left eye. You'll find this kind of difference in almost every person you look at. As you become an experienced face reader, you'll be able to overlook any superficial characteristics of the photographs, like lighting or even the influence of the expression on the individual's face. So, the question we ask ourselves as we frame the information from the left eye is, how do I see myself? The left eye tells us Taruni's self-view. As we stated, the right eye represented Taruni's world-view, and the left eye reveals her self-view. Once again, the right eye is outward-facing, and the left eye is inward-facing. So Taruni, in your left eye, we do not see the same anger that was present in the right eye. We see instead the fear or anxiety which is dominant in the model child, who continually questions whether they are good enough. We also see the consequences of your family environment, which failed to cherish you as an individual, valuing you instead for your performance output, your behavior, and the results you generated. This leads to what we also see in your left eye as sadness, longing, and an uncertainty about your own intrinsic value as a human being. Once again, we can look into this eye to ascertain the depth. And you will find that, as with the right eye, you can travel a very long way, indicating great depth. Generally speaking, the depth of both eyes will match. I have not personally found a marked difference between both eyes in all the faces I have looked at.
As we did before with the lower part of the face, we're going to look at both eyes now.
When we look at both eyes together, this will tell us how Taruni perceives life and what she expects from it. This view tells us what she feels she is here to do. I call this her soul's intention. Again, you should notice a startling difference when we bring both eyes together. This is an entirely new channel of information, even though you might think we are just combining the two eyes which we have already analyzed separately. Taruni is clearly here for a deliberate and important reason. She is not lost. She is on a journey of self-discovery, a journey that has been filled with many extraordinary highs and devastating lows. What we are seeing here is someone who has a tremendous destiny and an importance to the rest of us. And those highs and lows have been part of her journey of self-discovery. And this is what makes her such a fabulous and interesting personality. Seeing Taruni through this channel, we are instantly impressed and hopeful.
Okay, now let's look at the right side of your face.
The right side tells us how Taruni has learned to deal with the world, her coping mechanism. This is the side of Taruni that she shows to the world. With this channel, we can begin looking at her primary personality traits. Clearly, on this side, we see her high-functioning nature. I have created my own system for categorizing and ranking personality traits, which I use to assist my corporate clients in their vetting process. And in this system, there are 5 personality traits. 1, visionary. 2, brilliant bureaucrat. 3 doer, 4 social seller, and 5 neurotic. Taruni is primarily a doer. She is extremely competent at getting things done, enjoys working with her hands and her body, has a high degree of diligence, persistence, determination, and ability to stay on task. So now that we have come to the last 3 channels of Taruni's face, the right side, left side, and the whole face, we can start to identify Taruni's service personas. Service personas refer to the archetypal persona types which we poetically title sorcerer, priestess, shaman, empath, and the list goes on. We have identified 31 in total. Service personas indicate the propensity that an individual has for helping others. Each persona is imbued with a propensity for transmuting consciousness and elevating humanity in a unique way. There are 5 classes of service persona. They are courage, wisdom, sincerity and guilelessness, kindness, and humility. We'll go into Taruni's long list of service personas in more detail when we look at her whole face. So for now, in her right face, I'll simply indicate that service personas in the class of courage and guilelessness are present.
That was great. Now let's take a look at the left side of your face.
The left side tells us who is really in there, as the right side showed us how Taruni presented herself to the world. This left side tells us who she really is as a person. Once again, you will notice a remarkable difference between these 2 sides of the face. Let's flip from side to side so you can notice the difference. The first thing I notice when analyzing Taruni's left side is that she is a truly good person. And the service personas that we noticed emerging on her right side are becoming more apparent in her left side. We can add to the courage and guilelessness personas a new class of service persona from the wisdom category. Basically, from this left side, we can understand that Taruni is a very high-functioning individual with good, positive attributes, who is working very hard to heal the psychological issues that we have already discussed.
So now we're going to look at your whole face, and we're going to talk about what I call your purpose for being here.
So now we come to the final channel of information that we draw from in a face reading, the whole face. When I look at Taruni's whole face, I can clearly see the multitude of service personas that she has. These service personas reveal the high degree of propensity and resource that she has available to her, which gives us insight into how she should be channeling her energy in her personal life and work. So let's pick from the list of the 31 service personas that you can see here on the screen. Under the class of wisdom, Taruni has sorcerer, which is transmuter of consciousness, meaning that she has the ability to change other people simply by virtue of her presence. Priestess, intuitive guide. Teacher, showing us how to live by example. Counselor, pragmatic healer, teacher, and guide. She shows us the perspectives that we need to continue on our journey. Hetera. This is a rare persona, and it is the astute advisor, sometimes known as the power behind the throne. She also has Epicurean, the appreciator of all that is. She can relish the world of the senses and has a strong artistic and creative sense. In the class of courage personas, Taruni has warrior, dedicated to getting the job done for all. Empress, a devoted and charismatic leader. Heroine, the challenge seeker, typically highly competitive, ranging from sportsmen to entrepreneurs, and discoverer, someone who can help us discover new ways of doing things or new resources. And finally, in the guileless class, the class of humility, Taruni has supporter, the resource providing individual, someone who helps others by enabling them to achieve their desired outcomes, and creator, the generator of new resources. This is similar to discoverer, but is based more in the physical manifestation of new resources, like an artist or an inventor. Creators love to create things in new realms. And finally, we have empath, the resonating tuning fork, deeply sensitive and emotional. She can feel what others feel. Okay, that's quite a list. For everyone watching, this is an unusually long list of service personas, but I'm sure you can now see that Taruni is a very high-level individual who has an enormous range of propensities and resources to draw from to heal herself from her childhood issues and to be of service to humanity. So with the reading completed, let's get back to answering your question, Taruni, about why you are feeling stuck in your life and how to find motivation and enthusiasm in your personal and professional life. Based on the reading and the particular types of scripts and developmental arrests you're dealing with, the most significant advice I can give you is to become more aware of the unconscious attachments that you have to the dysfunction of your early life. The model child and the one and only heir scripts and the RFE developmental arrest, as well as the bootstrap developmental arrest, which I didn't have time to talk about today, have created a tremendous stress-based dysfunction, which means that you have become attached to stress. Actually, it's more than an attachment. You've actually become addicted to stress, which means that you will continually look for situations in your everyday life to fuel this addiction. The key to healing this addiction is to first recognize that it exists. It's not enough to simply recognize that you are high-strung or stressed out. You have to accept that you're attached and drawn to the stress itself. Forgiveness will also be necessary to heal yourself from this stress addiction, being able to understand that those who perpetrated the dysfunction in your environment were most likely carrying on patterns of dysfunction unwittingly. As you learn to recognize your attachment addiction to stressful situations, you will develop more ability to choose to experience life in a different way. You will begin to seek out joy and feel joy instead of stress, and this will help you to find the clarity to make better choices in your career and personal life. I want you to know that you have such a tremendous amount to offer the world, and this is going to be a wonderful journey. Now that we've completed Taruni's face reading, I'd like you to look at her photograph again and compare your feelings about her to how you felt when we first began. How do you feel about her now? How different is your experience of her? Do you have a deeper sense of her? Are you able to hold more of her in your heart?
So, Taruni, what did you think?
It was great. All the information you've given me is going to help me to make the decisions that I need to make for the future. Thank you.
I really appreciate Taruni's help today. I hope it's been helpful to you, and I'll see you at the next training.